Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coach Krisler's Convos. If you are new here, this is a just informal, unscripted conversation between two health coaches today that are going to just share. We're just going to share stories and hear a little bit from Michelle about her personal journey. So first of all, welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you for having me, Krisler. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you, especially because you deal with a very, very special population. But before we get to your coaching and your health journey, tell us who you are, where you are from, and what you do.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Doel. I live out near outside of Portland, Oregon with my husband and my 3 teenage daughters and my amazing dog. And I am a teen health coach, and I work with teens to help them figure out how to become the best version of themselves mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Wow, that's awesome. And I'm sure because you have teenagers in your home that you probably get a whole lot of practice with hearing about what's going on and, seeing what's actually happening in real time. So I'm sure we will dig into that a little bit. But, I love that you, just in general, I love that you work with teenagers. I think sometimes they can be a little bit forgotten, a little bit written off. But you definitely, as we've talked before, I can see your passion and your love for this particular population. So that's fantastic.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about your personal health journey and how you got into working with teens. So tell me a little bit about, why teenagers, why this population?
Yeah. My health journey has been very long. Like most functional medicine health coaches seem to have that same long health journey, arriving at this place of like trying to figure out what's wrong with them because they can't seem to get the right answers from the Western medicine world, which we all appreciate. But at some point you get to that stopping point where you think you're crazy. There's still something wrong with you. And and I feel like I feel like it would be amazing if you interviewed all of these functional medicine health coaches to see how many of them have the strength of curiosity and love of learning at the top, because I think when you have that and perseverance, those propel you forward. Those keep you from giving up because there is an answer somewhere. And so my journey, 10-year journey has been a little over 10 years, has been that, like just following mystery symptoms is what I like to call it. Finally diagnosed by a functional medicine doctor as just general autoimmune, nothing specific yet, because I think we all know that the root of autoimmune is the same, right? In a sense, it's the same for everyone. It's inflammation, environment, and your DNA. But what triggered it it can be different in people. But we name it when we have so many symptoms that can point directly to like rheumatoid arthritis, or type 1 diabetes, or celiac disease. So luckily for me, I have had positive markers along the way, and then they kind of, the inflammation goes down. So with functional medicine, nutrition, sleep, movement, all of that, I've been able to tame those autoimmune symptoms throughout my, I would say probably I got it under control 5 years ago with functional medicine. So, but what led me to teens, along the way, what I would say is what I started to learn is that how to listen to my body, understand what's happening, and then know what to change. And in doing that for myself and raising 3 teenage girls at the same time, naturally I began, they're watching me. And then of course, I should throw this in also, I used to be an elementary school teacher. So they're watching me and I'm teaching them along the way. And I thought to myself, really what I want them to have is mental, physical, and emotional awareness, knowing how to recognize when something's off, and then giving them the toolkit of knowing what to change. And that can be everything from mindset to nutrition, to those are the two biggest, to in my personal opinion, to movement and all of that. So when I became a functional medicine health coach, and the next step was to sit for the board exam to get certified by the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches, I had my sister is out in Indiana, and she kind of helped me find these people to have these 50 sessions with, in order to get registered for the exam. And she has a friend who had two teenage daughters that I didn't know. And her friend reached out to me and said, "Can you coach my daughters?" And that, to me, for the first time, despite that I had teenage girls, despite that I had been in education, I paused, because as health coaches know, there has to be some skin in the game, right? For lack of a better term, when we're coaching adults will come to us and they know exactly what they want to change. With teenagers, it's a very tricky situation. I think we all know that teenagers should be working on many aspects of mental, physical, and emotional wellness. But they are overwhelmed. They are anxious. How do they even start? They don't even have the knowledge that we might have at 40 plus years old. So I said to her, okay, if you ask them, and they want it 100%, then I'll give it a shot. So she did, and I coached both of them. So they were technically my first teens to coach, and it was amazing. I felt like I was in the joy that I got from being in the classroom with the kids. And when you're a teacher, you truly have to differentiate, because everyone's learning style is different, right? Same thing with parenting. All three of my kids are different. I have to parent them a little bit different. So to have that one child in front of me and just listen and hear exactly what they need and help them steer individually towards that, while scaffolding them with a little bit of information along the way, was amazing. It was exciting. So
Yeah.
that was my starting point.
How cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can just see on your face how much you loved it and how much fun you were having in those times with those young girls. So yeah, and I feel the same way. I am a professor. I've been doing that for 20 plus years, and the time in the classroom is fantastic. I love it. I love the discipline that I teach. But I think going beyond that, when I have office hours and I have those one or two students who come see me and they sit down and they're telling me about their classes and what they're planning on doing in their future, and they have questions, and and honestly, my favorite part of it is not even when they ask me about sociology. It's like, I'm struggling with managing my time and studying. How do I do that? And I'm like, yes, let's talk about that. It's so much fun. And then you get to see them use those tools and succeed. It's like, oh my goodness. Yes, this is what I'm in it for. So I totally get that. So when you're working with these young ladies, what kinds of things were you finding were some of their issues?
Most kids, and this is really interesting. So I'll speak on these two, and then I'll also speak on, I have created a little teen wellness board with my kids and some other kids at the local high school. And we put out a Google form a couple of months ago and had about 60 responses. And the question was, what are you struggling with most right now? And it gives me the goosebumps to talk about this, because every single kid was saying the same thing. The pressure to do well in school, not having enough time, overwhelming anxiety of not or thinking, that I'm not good enough, friendships, feeling like I'm not fitting in. And a lot of kids actually said nutrition, like, I know that I'm not eating well. I feel tired all the time. And those main themes were within each response. And that spoke to me, that, wow, counseling is amazing. And I know that I heard parents through COVID and even after COVID, it takes, it's taking a couple of months to get kids into a counselor. And counselors, focus on, behavior change. Obviously, they focus on past traumas, they do psychotherapy. But as a health coach, a functional medicine health coach, I would love to get in right away and say, okay, here we are. Let's look at where we are right now and turn to the right? Insert that positive psychology, help build that self-esteem, help them understand their strengths and their values and how those two things are connected, to propel them forward. But every single kid, and even the two girls that I was working with, it was movement. But it was anxiety and stress, and relationships, just trying to figure out how to navigate things like, groups of friends who are disagreeing. So it's all of the things that we see as teachers, that we see as parents. And it was really eye-opening for my kids when that Google form came in that was completely anonymous. My older daughter said, wow, Mom, I know this sounds kind of bad, but I almost feel good after reading these because I know that I'm not the only person. And that's what I want these kids to know, right? They're not just a number. They're not, sitting at a desk at school every day. They're all unique. They all have different strengths. They all have different values. They all matter, and they all should be heard. And they should all know. I would love for them all to have that toolkit to say,
right,
here's what you can change. Here's what you do have control of in the midst of the things that you don't. So sorry, I kind of spun off on that. I always get so, so excited about talking about it, but yeah. So
yeah,
they're all feeling the same things.
Yeah. So how would you say that your own personal health journey has really influenced how you work with these young people?
That's a good question. Well, if I were to start by saying, what did I learn on my health journey? It is to seek knowledge, to believe that you believe in your gut, like when something's off, something is off, and then know how to fix it. And so the way that I say this with teens is to know what to change, know when to change it, and know how to change it. And I feel like that's what I learned on my journey. And so by doing that with myself, that has kind of helped me make it linear, like, or to have an overarching view of what I want them to take away. Right.
Yeah.
So in that is a toolkit.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the key things for you that were things that you figured out, okay, this is something I really need to change?
Okay. Number one for me was blood sugar. There are many things, and I know that that's very specific, but it was one of the things that really reduced my inflammation when it was a functional medicine doctor that I was working with. I actually worked alongside her. She was running an autoimmune virtual program, and she had 5 pieces to the pie, and one of them was blood sugar. And I thought, I didn't, people think blood sugar and they think diabetes, right?
Right.
But for me, I started to make the connection of, wow, I do feel tired after I have these things and that thing. And so with my own kids, it's very important, and they're all athletes. And so I want them to be able to have that sustained energy over the course of the day, or over the course of a tournament. So I'm constantly talking about nutrition, fats and proteins versus carbohydrates and processed carbohydrates versus, natural carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables. And so if they can keep their blood sugar baseline, then they have more energy in the morning to focus on schoolwork. They're not falling asleep in school. They can make it through a tournament and not kind of lose that energy. And I mean, there's so much to talk about on that also, but I take that component to teens, and they're going to school every day with Dutch Brothers and Starbucks, and if they can understand what their blood sugar is doing in the presence of these decisions, then they might start to begin to make those connections. It's a big what, right?
Yeah.
If they know that what, then they know the why, and they know the how to change it.
Yeah, blood sugar is a huge one, and I do agree that there is a misconception about blood sugar, that only people who have been diagnosed with diabetes need to be concerned with blood sugar. And that's just simply not true. Everybody really needs to be aware of, what's going on in their bodies. And some people use tools like a continuous glucose monitor, right? And some people, like you were saying with the teens, it just being aware of, how do you feel when you eat these foods, right? What's happening within 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours? What's your energy like? What's your sleep like? Those types of things are very practical things that people can do, that they can monitor and be aware of, so that, again, they know they need to change something and how they need to change those things. So was there anything else for you personally that really you felt like was something that was imminent for you to change or really helped you?
As most people with autoimmune diseases, gluten, 100% taking gluten out. So that was, another nutritional component of it. And, working with teens, it's not something you have to be careful of asking them to take things out, right? Because you really are also teetering on that edge of disordered eating. And I want to make sure that I stay away from that. So it's the tricky balance of educating, helping them understand what they can change, but helping them also understand that let's not get too drastic on this. But I have worked with a teen recently who we did sort of a mini elimination diet, because she and her mom had kind of assumed that maybe gluten was a problem for her. And in taking it out, we did the standard 3 weeks out and then insert it again. And she completely felt the inflammation, skin rashes, stomach issues. So that was a big aha for her. So there are specific scenarios where that might be something that, we could do with teens. But for me, it was huge. And I think the other thing is, when I started the functional medicine journey, it was all nutrition, like 100% nutrition. I was like, if everybody could change their nutrition, they'll be happy. And inevitably, what I found is nutrition is up there, but the foundation is believing in yourself, mindfulness, mindset, spirituality, wherever you find it, whether you're finding it in nature, whether you're finding it in an institution, having that connection to something higher than you, bigger than you, as a human is truly important as well. And that's, what functional medicine is. It's bringing in that nutrition. It's bringing in, the spirituality, however you find it, and mindset, and bringing those things together to create, a whole human.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, because, when you look at the physical, it's very much a systems approach, right? Just because you may be experiencing heart palpitations or joint pain or, headaches, it's still a part of an entire system, right? Your head is not detached from the rest of your body. So it's like, address the headache, yes, but you're addressing the whole system.
Yes.
But additionally, with the mental, emotional, and spiritual part, that cannot be separated from the physical. It's all together combined. So I think that's really important that you are addressing that with young people, so that they have an understanding that they are a whole person. And there's so many things that they can do to address that whole person that they look at in the mirror every single day. So that's phenomenal.
And
Yeah.
I just feel like if I would have had this knowledge 20 years earlier than I did,
Mhm.
I would be, and I'm grateful for my journey, but I feel like if I would have had a jump start, then things would be, different, possibly, even in a better way.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so that's kind of also my thought behind helping these teams. It's, when you work with clients in general, it's not magic. It's not 0 to 60, that you see in the media, but it's those tiny little baby steps. And so if I can help implant those, that education piece and help guide them with the coaching piece, then maybe, as they're going through high school and college, they can think back to those tiny little things and make their own changes, and then continue to grow along the way and be miles ahead of me at my age of 44.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yes, 100%. Our healthcare system really is very intervention focused. It's very kind of after the fact or reactive.
Mhm.
And what I love about the functional medicine approach is that it's very proactive, it's very empowering, it's very filled with hope
Yeah.
that there is something you can do, and you can actually do something to prevent ailments from happening. It doesn't mean you won't ever get sick,
Mhm.
but it means that you will very likely recover faster, or not have a lengthy sickness, right? It'll be shorter or things like that. So, yeah, I think catching these young people at such an early age, obviously the younger the better, but really when you're a teenager, you're really at the point of separating yourself a little bit from whoever is raising you, your parent or guardian, your family, things like that, even maybe from your siblings,
Right.
because you're stepping out on your own. You're creating your own path, you're making your own decisions, you're finding your own peer groups and things like that. So in this stage of life, there's a lot of decisions that they're starting to make. And if you can catch them early, where they're learning a little bit and they can go, okay, I think I want to try this, or I think I like this, or I'm feeling like this is not the best choice for me. Let me go a different path. Then as they get older, they can fall back on those same skills that they've developed early on in life.
Yeah.
And that, leads to better physical health, better mental health, better social health and relationships. So it definitely is a beautiful thing to be able to catch them early.
I love how you said that. And it's almost like instilling, high school and college are obviously big on critical thinking, but instilling that critical thinking in the health and wellness realm, right?
Mm,
That is, and I also loved how you said that, the idea of functional medicine gives hope and empowerment. Like those two things are huge.
mhm. Yeah. And I was thinking about that with what you said the responses were from the survey. And the responses sounded very sad and disillusioned and hopeless.
Yes.
So again, if you can kind of help them recognize that they're not alone, that other people are dealing with this, and that there are things that they can do. I mean, it just is such a great thing to be able to set them on that path.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. And yeah, if there's just more ways to help them understand they're not alone, also, I mean, you're naturally egocentric at that age. And so
Mhm.
the more exposure I can give to these kids organically, like, hey, this is from people in your high school, like they're feeling the same way that you are, to start to build not just that the understanding in themselves, like, okay, it's not just me, but even that empathy towards the
Mm,
people who are walking down the hallway, right? So
mhm.
it's kind of, there's many components to it, but
Yeah.
hopefully it can get big and it can spread, and kids can, begin to be well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So what kind of impacts have you seen in your own children from your health journey or from, what you've learned with working with other teens?
I have seen so much in my kids, and it just makes me proud. And I'll give one little example. Last spring, I did a clean eating challenge. Now I'm understanding that we don't call it that anymore. It should have been like a healthy eating challenge. And I had about 12 girls in it, and they were mostly my kids' friends, obviously, right? When you start small, it's just people in your community. And I did a webinar. We talked about proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and the goal of the 7-day challenge was we talked about mindset also, like maybe think of one negative, or one self-limiting belief that you could focus on trying to change during this time. And maybe think of one habit, nutrition habit that that you feel isn't making you feel the best. Maybe think about eliminating that. But then also and I gave lots of recipes. Let's add in fruits and vegetables and protein. And we talked about why our brains need fat. And so kind of, release them into the wild for a week and let them do their thing. And my girls would report back to me, really not, obviously I'm not like, what's going on, but things like, oh, so-and-so brought lunch today and she only had a salad. It was just lettuce. Like there was no protein or fat on it. And when that came out of my daughter's mouth, I was like, yes, right? Like she gets it, right? Because the one thing that I have really tried to do with my girls, again, back to the earlier part of the conversation where teens can very easily teeter on the edge of disordered eating, is to never talk about calories, to never talk about food as making you fat or making you skinny, but only about energy and physiology, right? And so to know that they're looking at food as energy, and they can recognize the components of that, makes me a proud mama, And so they still go out. My oldest drives. So she'll come home and I'll find like a bag of McDonald's, in the trash can. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is the stuff I want to avoid. But at the same time, just like parenting, you give them the information, they know the what. And then when they need to know how to change it, they know how to change it. When they feel bad, they know how to change it. And they'll say that, if I'm out of town for a few days and my husband's great, don't get me wrong, but like, he's not cooking the stuff that I am, he's busy working and they're trying to just kind of get quicker food. Yeah. And they'll say, Mom, we feel horrible. We've been eating, such and such all week and we just want a home cooked meal. And so they understand when they feel bad, they understand why it's happening and they understand how to change it. So that's been fun.
That's awesome. Yeah. So what would you say has been, or maybe was, your biggest challenge in your personal health journey?
Oh, that is a good question. My biggest challenge in my personal health journey, I will say it was at the beginning, consistency, where I have all the information now. How do I get myself to use it? Right? I was a young mom. I had little kids. Sometimes you don't have as many resources when you're younger as you do when you're older, and that I would say was the biggest challenge. And if I would have had a functional medicine health coach 10 years ago at the beginning of my journey to help me sift through all of that information and help me understand that it isn't 0 to 60, that it's baby steps. And what do you want to change now in this moment that you believe could be sustainable? That would have been even more empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. So the population I love working with is moms. And I find that they are in that same exact place. And I typically work with moms who are 35 plus, So they are the, geriatric maternity ladies typically.
Yes.
And so,
Or women. Who came up with that term? Yeah.
I know. I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah. So, moms are so overwhelmed sometimes. They maybe don't really even prioritize their health, but if they have a desire to, then they're like, where do I start? I have these kids, they have activities, dinner and work, and all the things that they are trying to navigate. And so, yeah, same thing. That's why my desire is to really help those moms, because, when you have somebody who is linked arms with you, who can hold you up and celebrate with you, hold you up when you're struggling, but also celebrate with you when things are going well, it just makes that journey just so much better, a little bit easier, a little bit, more helping you build that consistency. So absolutely. I mean, as a working mom myself, when I was in that stage with littles, especially, oh my goodness, could I have used some help?
So true. I love that you're working with moms in that age group. And back to your word, hope. If anything, it gives them hope. Like you said, walking side by side, linking arms and helping them get through this, and knowing that changes can be made and that they can be effective. That's huge. So yeah, good for you for working with that group. Here we are, like you're working with the moms, I'm working with the teens, and everybody needs it, right?
We're going to get the whole family taken care of.
We are. Family coaching by Michelle Krisler. Yeah.
It's awesome too, because I would have to say that maybe I'm a little biased, but attending FMCA which I know, is a fantastic program. And, now having that completed and behind me, I still have so many resources available, in the fact that I know so many health coaches, and, I can always ask questions and utilize, if I have a mom that has a teen that, isn't really working well or whatever, I have resources available to say, hey, I know someone who can work with your teen, or whatever it is. So I love having a community of coaches around me that I can always go to and ask a question or receive support. And I feel like the FMCA community is just really, really all about making sure they're not just training good coaches, but that when they send them out, that those coaches are constantly receiving continuous training and continuous support to make sure they're successful and their clients are successful.
I agree with you so much. I mean, honestly, becoming part of FMCA, because there's a lot of health coaching out there, right? Programs out there, and I'm sure that they're all great. But the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy, and like you said, they're not just training coaches, but you truly feel cared for. I have been out of the program now for 2 years, and to be able to even just be a part of the alumni program and jump back in and be at, Elise or Dr. Sandy's office hours, and to get some feedback, or like you said, even networking. Every time I'm in one of those, scenarios, whether I'm connecting, collaborating, or office hours, I usually walk away, which is how I met you, like, connecting with somebody. And so to have that ongoing is that support has been amazing too. I agree.
Well, Michelle, this has been such a delightful conversation. I've had a ton of fun, and I know that everybody who gets to watch it is going to be encouraged. So if they want to check you out, find you, connect with you, ask more questions, where can they go?
They can go to Instagram. My handle is @the-teen-health-coach, and hop on there, look at my content, send me a DM if you have any questions, if you want more information on my teen wellness program. And yeah, I'd love to affect, influence, guide as many teens as possible. And thank you so much, Krisler, also for having me here today. I appreciate this opportunity to share my passion, and I had a lot of fun chatting with you. And so thank you.
Well, I so appreciate it. And like I said, I know lots of people are gonna get some great nuggets and takeaways from this. I'm sure they will be contacting you. I will make sure to put your information in the description so that folks can connect with you. And if you enjoyed this conversation, y'all make sure you like this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the conversations. Share with the friends you love, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, Krisler.